Right. Welcome, everybody, to our webinar today, What a Flint Hill Teacher Knows About How Your Student Learns. I am Emily Sanders, Flint Hill School. This is my 24th year as an independent school educator and my 15th year at Flint Hill. I started as a history teacher and have served in various roles, including Innovation Department Chair, leading teacher education as the Dean of Faculty, and now supporting curriculum and instruction at Flint Hill School. And here you'll see I have my credentials and degrees. I have a Bachelor of Arts in Slavic Languages and in History from the University of Virginia, and a Master's of Arts in Teaching from the College of William and Mary. At Flint Hill, our classrooms are student-centered and designed to encourage self-directed learning, critical thinking geared toward solving complex problems, leadership development, effective communication, and citizenship. Just to unpack that a little bit, by self-directed learners, we want students who can initiate their own learning through joyful exploration and discovery and are willing to take risks. Our problem solving focuses on innovative and reflective approaches, working both independently and as part of a group. As leaders, our students should listen actively, collaborate, and strive to bring out the best in themselves and others while serving the needs of local and global communities. Effective communicators consider both the intent and the impact of their words and actions and modify their approaches for specific audiences and outcomes. And finally, ethical citizens. Students recognize their roles as global citizens. They approach the world with appreciation, empathy, and optimism, and actively embrace diverse cultures and identities, experiences, and ideas. So in today's webinar, we will explore how leveraging emotion, relationships, technology, and a sense of balance encourages deep learning experiences for our students. Again, tied back to those ideas of being self-directed learners, effective communicators, ethical citizens, problem solvers, and leaders. So let's jump right into emotion and its connection to learning. It seems counterintuitive to think that emotion plays an important role in something as linear as learning. At Flint Hill, we look at the science behind how the brain works. The neuroscience work done by Dr. Mary Ellen Imardino-Yang, a scientist who's funded by the National Science Foundation, she researches the connection between emotion and deep learning. It's really interesting, the work from Dr. Imardino-Yang, because she's done studies to map the electrical activity in the brain when students are learning. And when students are learning with a component of an affective or an emotional state, the parts of the brain fire where deep learning occurs. If they're doing activities that are more rote memorization or are not connecting with their own sort of emotional state, you don't see the firing of the brain that's putting the information into long-term storage or into deep thinking. And so as a part of the Flint Hill curriculum, we have this work, the work of Dr. Howard Gardner in Multiple Intelligences, and Dr. Carol Ann Tomlinson's work around differentiation and learning as three of the core things that work towards how our teachers design curriculum, design lessons, design activities and assessments. So all in this idea of fostering deep learning for the student. The last 20 years or so has really seen an exponential growth in new research about what works, how the brain works, and what works in learning. Some of this reinforces very traditional work that we would have grown up as things we would have experienced, things that even when I think about this, I think about the Socratic method. It turns out that that can be a very emotional and powerful learning tool, and that's been around for thousands of years. So, and then some of the science also points to these counterintuitive forces, like the work of Dr. Emer Yang, where we're putting emotion and the affective with something that might be perceived as a more logical approach. So it's really an exciting time in education to see how all of this can come together to create enriching learning opportunities for students. Flint Hill teachers don't know just one formula to develop the right mix of challenge and support, but rather know all the variables that are important to creating deep learning experiences for our students. So let's look at how the emotional connection supports deep learning for students. We believe in play at Flint Hill. Play can take many forms. Play is exploring, it's pausing, it's imagining, it's building, it's measuring, it's singing, it's challenging, it's risk-taking, it's inventing, it's role-playing, it's storytelling, and it's learning. In our lower school, our teachers play into many aspects. Imagine this. You are a student, and one day you come to school and realize you and your friends are given an assignment. Build a model of a community that will exist 100 years in the future. You're given a Lego minifigure, and you and your friends are guided through a series of exercises to think about this challenge. This is the entire plan for the day. You realize that those books you read about last week about children in the 1920s gives you some ideas. Your science and engineering lessons from last week helped you explore different materials and what you could do with that, and how to build with a cardboard paper tube, and what to do with duct tape, and how to use this kind of glue. In your computer science class, you learned about Bitcoin. And at the brown bag lunch, a parent came in and talked about SpaceX. You have an entire day, a day-long opportunity where you get to play, and it allows for actually higher level critical thinking. You're bringing your ideas together. Plus, you're building with your friends. And hey, you're also getting to know that student who just added into your class. You're getting to know her and think about the ideas that she's brought from her old school, and how that makes for a unique community by melding all of these different ideas together. Mrs. Hall, our lower school director, is going to be really impressed. This is what our day of play allows for our students: opportunities to engage in deep learning, opportunities to connect, opportunities to present, and opportunities to see that not all of the learning happens in the classroom or behind a desk or on a worksheet or reading a book, but rather it can be the application of knowledge. It also allows students to work at their own pace and bring their own ideas to it and weave things together and work together. That's a really important part of work at Flint Hill, is how to value each person's uniqueness, but what it can contribute to our larger goals. So on the right of the screen, you'll see one of our posters from the day of play. Every year, our students have different challenges. In the past, they've done things like build arcade games, And it's really always a joyful and exciting day, both for students and for parents who come in and help as well. And certainly for faculty, because you just get to see the learning happening and the thinking coming together, solving, and the self-directed learning. Another example is from grade 6 in a unit that happens in the early spring, the rocket science unit. Students work with Gary Smilowitz, a former naval aviator, an MIT adjunct professor, and an aerospace engineer who is now a middle school science teacher, to learn about rocketry. They design and build, then launch and iterate on their designs. Included in this lab is data collection and analysis. This is what Mr. Smilowitz and Ms. Snell know about the unit. All of this, the scientific thinking and the iterative thinking and the design thinking that the students are practicing and demonstrating at the conclusion of this unit. When your student comes home, they may think they played with rockets. And when you look at their digital portfolio tonight, you will see the observations and deductive reasonings in their reflections on the activity. So in terms of the connection to emotion, we see how important play can be as a way to really bring students into a state of learning. So you might wonder, does this kind of finish out in our 6th grade? But in our upper school program and middle school programs, play looks different because students can do more cognitive and abstract play at that level. Upper school students may research members of the Congress of Vienna, present a short position speech, turn in a bibliography, and then debate the plans to restructure Europe following Napoleon's defeat. This is the high school version of a week of play and history. Students come home excited and are making connections across many lessons. Parents are likely to hear about this or see about this as a reflection in their digital portfolio. These examples all lead to that powerful connection between motivation and emotion. Another example of this, tying to emotion and motivation, is the power of purpose. Take meaningful risks, be yourself, and make a difference. Purpose and authentic work can lead to powerful emotions for deep learning. Our 4th graders explore hunger and homelessness as a part of understanding the Fairfax community. This unit involves developing empathy with many viewpoints, designing ways to educate the kindergarten through 3rd grade students about hunger and homelessness, and ultimately putting on a fair and then a meal packing event to bring faculty, parents, and children together. Choice in your learning is another factor for increased motivation and another place where we see the passions and emotions of our students come together. Throughout the year-long study of the Chesapeake Bay, 4th grade teachers and the lower school technology integration specialist built an interwoven curriculum that spiraled student learning from the science behind the Chesapeake Bay to the social studies of the people who live by the bay. This wide-angle unit was carefully orchestrated to take students on a journey of the bay, in which students would build a holistic understanding of the Chesapeake Bay, while also learning how their own lives could impact the bay and how they could improve it and its surrounding areas. In this picture on the left, we have the 4th grade students who ultimately built these rain barrels and designed and created their own rain barrel and then donated them to a local organization for an auction as a connection to philanthropy. The project culminated with student-created videos about the Bay, which were then posted on a YouTube channel to also reach a wider audience. On the right-hand side of the screen, you'll see some upper school students using their iPad and explain everything. This is a place where choice, emotion, and technology kind of intersect because as students are creating or constructing their own knowledge, able to choose apps, choose the iPad, choose different ways to present information. And all of that choice, it turns out, is very powerful and a powerful positive emotion that can support student learning. Another element that of what Flint Hill teachers know about how your student learns is the power of transformational relationships. Um, we have so many different programs where we have faculty who have a deep understanding of who students are at that grade level and then how to stretch them. And you really need this positive supporting mentor who's able to make that connection, remembers just enough of what it was like to be that age, and know the student, what fires their emotion, what their passions, what they want as a purpose, and bring that together to stretch them and enrich them academically. One of our very strong programs is our classics department. And in this, several years ago, we had students who created the varsity Latin t-shirt, which interestingly really speaks to many people across the country who are involved in classics. And they take these now, they produce them every year, and then they take them to the national convention and are able to demonstrate their entrepreneurship, and then are raising money for the school as a tie to philanthropy. All of this is kind of tied by faculty who are exceptional classicists and researchers and historians in their own right and model what the discipline means for their students. And in this way, creates a strong relationship and are able, students feel comfortable enough and challenged enough to take meaningful academic risks. On the right, we have a picture of Fred Atwood, who I think he's been at Flint Hill nearly 30 years. And he is an upper school science teacher who also teaches third grade. And so in that transformational piece, um, Fred Atwood can fall into really knowing how to unpack the natural world for third graders. And much of the third grade science curriculum involves getting out to observe the natural world, think about it, and make connections. And then, not pictured on this slide, but I wanted to make a note of it. Just today, I was speaking with a faculty member, and it made me think of the power of transformational relationships. In this case, this teacher was talking about a student who generally just gets B's in science. And then he did a project where they had to actually do research and develop metrics and kind of do the analysis and make the presentations, all in the format that is how scientists do poster presentations. So doing that authentic work, again, that intersection with the transformational relationships and that emotion, the authentic or purposeful work. And this is a student who had not shown really, was doing fine, but not showing like excelling or exceptional work until this project. And he reflected to me that the importance of always remaining open to that student, then finding that project and being able to help those students transform, where now this student in the upper school has come back to speak with him. They talk about graduate school programs. He was able to share his journey. of his graduate program. And really, just the student and the teacher were in that transformational state where all of a sudden this young woman is excited to be a scientist. And I think that really speaks to that balance for education, in that his class certainly has a number of elements of a really traditional science program. And the inclusion of this purposeful and authentic work allows some of the students to find their way into science, for instance, through this. And that's really the power of teachers knowing what students need and designing projects and curriculum and lessons to be able to foster that. Our teachers know our students well. They know their passions, what fuels their intellects, their strengths and challenges in learning. They also understand emotion and the power of positive experiences for learning. So here's another photo. What do you notice about this picture? I notice how teachers are learning alongside our students. This idea about partnership with creating learning is strong and leads to a positive emotional state for students in the classroom. In this lesson, our fourth graders and our eighth graders working alongside each other on a writing project. This flat partnership in the classroom transforms the underlying structure of a traditional learning environment, where you have a teacher standing at the front of the room, perhaps just imparting information to students. In this picture, which is very much representative of how our teachers work with our students, you notice them alongside and sharing information and reflecting back and forth. And then I wanted to bring in this piece because sometimes we don't think about this, but it's integral to your students' experience. And that is to be a part of a community where teachers continue to learn who you are as a student. In the upper left-hand corner, we have two faculty members who are presenting to other faculty members about what students are like and how they learn. And in the bottom right-hand corner, you'll see where we have students actually teaching faculty about computer science and robotics. And these two pictures really struck me because you see, as a part of our community, our teachers are willing to become the student and learn from the students, or even be the student. And that's a very powerful component of a learning environment where the people who are the guides can have a fluidity and are able to easily transform themselves back into the role of a student. So moving on to our third category, I wanted to talk a little bit about technology. Flint Hill has a philosophy of technology integration, and it's focused on the creation or construction of knowledge, not the consumption of knowledge. So technology integration at Flint Hill School redefines the learner's experiences. Students are empowered to be more active participants in the construction of their own understanding in ways that are not possible with traditional educational resources. Effective technology integration allows greater levels of independence and collaboration, reflection and application, choice and creativity, multiple means of exploration and self-expression, individual growth, and the development of responsible and thoughtful citizens. So here on the left is a picture of a hologram that our middle school students created in science. And I thought it was a great example of how some of our creation is creating an iMovie, perhaps in your 10th grade history class to support your oral history project. Some of it involves virtual reality, or in this case, kind of tied here to holograms in the middle school. We even have students who are, we have many different programs in computer science. In fact, all of our through sixth grade have a dedicated time for computer science in the classroom. And then as students enter the seventh grade up to 12th grade, they have many options for programming, computer science, and integrating computer science in robotics. And I'd already referred to the slide on the right. You see this idea of this construction or creation of knowledge. Our math classes, especially in grades 7 through 10, students use programs that are web-based as a way to help them play around with, explore, and really do the construction of the theorems before they're taught the theories. So this part of technology really works across all of our disciplines: humanities, math and science, and certainly we have strong strands of technology in computer science and robotics. An emerging field is also cybersecurity, and I'll talk about that in just a minute. Another element of technology I wanted to highlight is how students use a program called Mathematica to do research and then compose sometimes original research. On the right, several years ago, we had a student who wanted to basically map mathematically a raindrop and develop a formula. And this was something that was not available in this Mathematica database. It was just that intersection again of things that we talked about: emotion and play and imagination coming into math. And then students are able to use this college level Mathematica program to be able to present higher level math. These students were in our multivariable calculus class, which is a level beyond AP Calculus BC. In this, upper school math teacher, Bill Van Leer, wanted to provide students an advanced post-AP math course the opportunity to explore mathematical concepts. Through the multivariable calculus course, students use this Mathematica software to manipulate equations, to visualize mathematical concepts, and dig deeper into their application in the real world. At the end of course project, students were asked to select an area of interest. So again, that intersection between choice and technology, to discover the math behind the topic. And one student chose to study how rain is formed. And through her exploration and play, she discovered that although Mathematica offered the equation behind many shapes, a raindrop was not one of them. And so her project actually added to the body of knowledge found in Wolfram Mathematica. And then technology, we talked a little bit about programming, computer science, and robotics. An emerging area in the Flint Hill community is also cybersecurity, which is allows students to basically use their superpower for good, going back to that portrait of the student and creating ethical citizens, especially in digital realms. We have the opportunity for students to take academic courses in this, as well as to compete in academic competitions and be on cyber patriot teams. So then the fourth thing I wanted to talk about today is pulling it all together. And, we want these moments of challenge, struggle, wonder, and inquiry for our students. And we should think back to how this connects to what I talked about at the beginning of the webinar with regards to the portrait of the student. And when I saw this photo, I thought it really spoke to a lot of things. You can see sort of some of the students like that level of wonder, that kind of inquiry, like, I wonder how that works out. I really love the young girl in the left-hand corner who looks just a little bit frustrated. And then notice how the teacher is right there in the midst of the students, kind of going back to that transformational or that flat kind of relationship where they're all in it trying to figure out this one piece, working as a team, each bringing their own unique and individual gifts to it, um, but also working together to probably try to program something. This is in our innovation lab. So that's a lower school example. As we look at the middle school, I chose this photo, the signing of the social contract, as a way to um, bring these pieces together. Our students at the beginning of the year in middle school play around with ideas and words to come up with a contract or a promise that they will make to each other and to themselves in terms of what the year will look like. And the beauty of this process is it happens anew every single year. And so, as you are part of our middle school in seventh and eighth grade, you have the chance to iterate on that and kind of build your next future in the next year. And then this third slide, balancing and bringing it together, focusing on all the curricular, but also co-curricular activities for the upper school, that students, this is a great example when you see the myriad of clubs that show up every year. Some of them show up every year, like Model UN and the American Red Cross Club. But then some years you have film clubs, you might have a cooking club or a baking club. In the past, we actually had a cooking club where students were united in their love of food, and they would research menus and then put on dinner parties. And that sounds a little fantastical, but they would set the table and they researched that, and they had china and silver. So it's an area where students are allowed to really develop their purposes and their passions. In that case, two of the six students from the cooking club have gone on to become professional chefs. So it really allowed them in our program an area to play around with their passions and find their purpose, all while giving them a way to sort of anchor and really find a lot of success at Flint Hill. So, what does a Flint Hill teacher know about how your student learns? They know about emotion and how to pull out play and purpose and choice in order to really motivate and bring the strengths of your students to learning experiences. They know about the power of transformational relationships, getting to know students, um, being flexible and fluid, and being able to be the student and be empathic to their experience. They are, as Flint Hill has been on our one-to-one laptop and iPad journey for over 10 years now, our faculty are exceptionally well trained and knowledgeable about using technology in ways that promote strong digital citizenship. And then lastly, how to balance the many forces of traditional and contemporary education and bring these other forces into play in order to create exceptional learning experiences, deep learning experiences for your students. So now I think we have a chance if anyone has questions. Okay.